Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 17th day of April 2023, and it's time to have a conversation about talk of the nation. We know there's been a bit of efforts to have bipartisan talks, but in between, the Azimio coalition is saying that they will have the talks as they continue their street protests shortly after Ramadan, which should happen, I think it's later this week. But of course, we will be talking about that, but also looking at the dailies this morning, healthcare costs choking families. It's just one of the challenges that Kenyans are facing in terms of the cost of living. And you'll see some of the tablets that have tripled, doubled, even 5 times, like there's a drug, Lazatan H, for hypertension and kidney failure patients, rising from 10 shillings to 60 shillings a tablet, and so many others, including that one for breast cancer patients from 450 shillings a packet to 1,550 shillings. And then, still on the same page, you see conversations around Jose Camargo is here, claims Raila Odinga. I will not be cowed by Azimio's ICC threat, says police boss Koome, and the tragic story of Mukumu girls' health woes. That is on the Daily Nation. On the front page of the Standard is return of caning, teachers go rogue. Then Azimio to report Gachagua to the ICC. And that sad story, 11 cult members face attempted suicide charge. We saw some of them having died. They had been starving to death in what appears to be some religious cult somewhere at the coast, and so much more. But first, I want us to begin by introducing the panelists here in studio. We have Fredo Kango, who is the Secretary of Political Affairs at the Independence Party, Kano. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
We have Deputy Speaker Gladys Boss. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you back.
Yes, I'm happy to be back.
Great. And John Kagusha is the Member of Parliament for Mukurweini constituency. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
Great. We almost missed you
when?
this morning.
Missed me?
Yes.
Oh, no, not me.
Then we have Richard Onyonka, Senator of KC, will be joining us shortly. As soon as he's able to make it here, we'll be bringing him on board. But in the meantime, looking at the cost of living, there has been some efforts, and we'll be listening to some of the voices from the government side. Last week, there's an oil cargo that arrived in the country at a cost of 20 billion shillings in what now is an arrangement between the government of Kenya and the governments of UAE and Saudi Arabia to have oil coming into the country to be paid for 6 months from now. The plan is to ease the price of the dollar in Kenya, but also there has been efforts in as far as what the president was saying in fixing the cost of unga, saying that the price will be going down to 150 shillings later this week. Let me begin with you, Deputy Speaker, because if you look at much of the reporting lately, it is about that cost of living. This morning, the Daily Nation is looking at the cost of healthcare. And you look at those costs of how a family that was spending 3,600 shillings, 650 for a drug now is having to spend 21,900. Even as we are fixing the cost of oil and the cost of unga, if the duty-free imports are now manufactured into unga, there's still a bigger challenge and a bigger global conversation. What is realistic for the leadership in this country, but also for Parliament, in fixing all these concerns?
I think these concerns are not arising just now. This has been a conversation Kenyans are having as far back as 2013. If you remember in 2013, when the process started about the Big Four was about food security. It was about universal health care.
Big Four was 2017.
Yes, 2017.
Post-2017.
Yeah. But even if you look at the plan, even before that conversation, it has always been a conversation. The cost of health care, being able to manage the cost of living and the cost of food, putting food on the table, and that has got to do with our food security, promoting agriculture. We have unemployment, which has always been a case as an issue in Kenya. With unemployment, manufacturing was actually supposed to boost employment. Affordable housing was not just about building houses, it was about creating employment. Development of the TVETs, the technical vocational technical colleges, institutes, has also got to do that we cannot become an industrialized country if we don't have skilled labor. So we started going back to make sure that we train our plumbers, we train electricians, we train welders, and so on. Mm-hmm. So this conversation has been ongoing. Of course, the drought has actually made it worse. So because of the drought, something like power has to go up. Why? Our cheapest source of generating power, which is water, then is not there. Mm-hmm. Then we have to use diesel. Diesel is imported. And then that's the most expensive way of generating power. So, and when power goes up, nearly everything in production goes up. Mm-hmm. The cost of medical treatment, we have known for a long time and has been a conversation. And that's why you find Kenyans actually have been traveling to India for treatment where it's cheaper. The medicine there is cheaper. The cost of procedures is cheaper. The cost of seeing a medical specialist is cheaper. So the conversation about the cost has been there. And hence the reason why you see that even in the Kenya Kwanza plan, mm-hmm. it is on top of the president's agenda, the issue of healthcare. You have heard us say they're going to transform NHIF so that everybody will have a health cover whether you're employed or not. The cost of healthcare has also got to do with old age poverty, where you have people have been working, and because we don't have a culture of saving as a country, or the manner in which NSSF is structured is such that someone can work for 30 years and then end up with 70,000 shillings. Mm-hmm. Being paid out to you, because we don't have a structured and focused and redeemable way of saving. So, and that again is in the plan. And all these interventions are not going to happen, the changes are not going to happen overnight. Right. It will take certain fiscal interventions through the budget policies paper from the National Treasury, the discussions at Parliament, mm-hmm. and also the general policy of the government now is that we have to slow down on our borrowing. Because again, if we are spending most of the money that we have as a country right. to service debt, then there wouldn't be nothing left for the other costs that you need to put in on Kenya's table. Mm-hmm. And so all these interventions, the question we should be asking ourselves is what are the interventions that are ongoing? Is it something that the National Treasury and Parliament looking at closely? Yes. The answer is yes. And if you look at the budget this year, mm-hmm. it is very clear that any project or activity or program that is being budgeted for is one that must produce results. And that's why when you hear discussions about that we don't subsidize production, we'll subsidize production, not consumption. Because production, you are actually putting money where it can generate more money, okay. not where it's just losing money. Okay. And that conversation is ongoing. So health cost choking families is not news. It has been a problem. It is something that has been discussed and discussed. Even the entire campaign trail, people are talking about the cost of healthcare. Anybody sitting here will tell you they probably have 20 WhatsApp groups for fundraising for medical bills. Right. Yes, but it has to be resolved. Okay. Not by making it a headline story, but by checking that the interventions are actually being undertaken okay. where they should be.
Fred, the cost of living has been one of the calls by Azimio, the reason why we're holding protests, the reason why we're having conversations now. But are there any specific interventions that you'd want to see? Because even if you say that bring back the subsidies, you may bring back the subsidies on food, but the president is saying, and we'll be listening, actually let's listen to what he said about the price of unga before we can move along.
Mimi nashangaa wale ndugu zetu wengine ambao tumechukua hii maneno kutoka kwao walikuwa wamefikisha bei ya unga 230. Saa hii bei ya unga iko 170, kupitia next week itakuwa 150, tukiteremsha inakuja chini. Ati mbinu yao ya kubadilisha ama ya kupunguza gharama ya unga ati ni kuweka sufuria kwa kichwa, kwenda kufanya maandamano, kuharibu mali ya wananchi, kuharibu biashara ya wananchi. Hiyo ni upumbavu kubwa.
Right. So, of course, he's talking about the street protests are not a solution to this situation. Are there any specific interventions? Because it appears like the economy is doing badly, not just in Kenya, but globally.
Thank you, Sam. Maybe just before I answer that, I just want to respond to what Honorable Boss has just said on health cost. It is true, the state of our healthcare is not in a good shape as we would have wanted, and particularly both sides of the political divide campaigned using these, and they wanted to reform these. But you recall Kenya Kwanza team did tell Kenyans that they will actually reform the health sector by providing proper health care. And they talked of the challenges of NHIF enrollment. Probably maybe it is time they tell Kenyans what are the status of the NHIF enrollment and how is that helping in securing the lives of Kenya as far as healthcare is concerned. I'm sure that's something that they can tell us. Number two, on the issue of cost of living, Sam, as Azimio, we have said that is non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable because, Sam, today as we sit here, there are families that are waking up with empty stomachs. They did not eat anything. And that cost of living, whether it is global, national, or local, it is an issue that Kenya Kwanza regime must address. They must address it because they did tell Kenyans that when they put the Bible down, they lowered the cost of unga to 70. Last evening, when Honorable Ruto said that currently the cost of unga is 170, I did a quick check in the supermarkets and the retail stores, and we saw there are situations where the cost of unga is 182, 206, 203, 192, depending on the brand. So majority of Kenyans are still not able to access it. Now, we have said before that we would want to see the cost of living go down by number one, the cost of unga, the cost of fuel, the cost of electricity, and any other essential. When they tell us, Sam, that in the coming weeks, the cost of unga will go to 150, not good enough. While they're saying this, they have not addressed the challenges with the cost of electricity. The production will still be high. So we are saying in the interim, we had suggested that let's go back to the subsidies of food subsidies that are going to cushion Kenyans in the interim as we address these issues. When you are angry, Sam, let me just finish. When you are angry now, not tomorrow, not next week. That anger must be addressed now. What Kenya Kwanza are telling us...
Angry or hungry?
Hungry for food.
Okay.
When Kenya Kwanza are telling us that, you know, they are subsidizing production, fertilizer, which we know now has issues, and all those farm inputs. But that Kenyans must wait until such a time the food is produced.
Does it make any sense for you?
It does make sense because Kenyans are carrying sufurias to the streets. They are saying we have a sufuria that is empty.
To lower the cost of producing, say, maize, does it make sense to you?
To lower the cost of producing maize makes a lot of sense, but in the long term. To lower the cost of living by lowering the cost of unga is immediate. We need it now, not tomorrow.
For you want to see resources being allocated to subsidize that cost of unga?
Not us. Kenyans want to see resources allocated towards lowering the cost of living generally, not only unga.
How do you explain a situation that we are not able to pay civil servants? The resources are challenged. Not unable to pay, but you're not able to pay on time.
Sam, I think you are right in your fancy sense, not able to pay, not on time. You know, that is an issue that our colleagues from Kenya Kwanza can address. But from where I sit from the Azimio side, we have seen a situation where if today the cost of salt can go up, salt, where our mothers used to go and borrow, it was so cheap to give even neighbors, can go up. Today, in the history of this country, civil servants can fail to get their salary on time. Others are being told to apply themselves to side hustle as they wait for salary. You can be sure that this regime is not even ready to lower that cost of living. And that's why we are saying as Azimio that we must push and allow Kenyans to give the alternative. The alternative is we must go for discussions that will prioritize cost of living, because that is the starting point. Okay. And we have said before, Sam, as I finish, that when they tell us that we are putting sufurias on our heads, we are doing that because these sufurias are empty. They are empty in the house. So we must go out and demonstrate that that sufuria should be full. How? By making this regime understand that we must have food for everyone. As a matter of fact, economic and social rights, every person, Sam, has a right not to go hungry. We have a regime that is telling us that wait for 150, wait for another 100. Kenyans are not patient. They're not.
Okay, Fred, how much is salt?
20 shillings.
And it has gone up?
500 grams.
It's gone up to what?
We're talking about tonnage. 10,000 tons, 100,000 tons in terms of tonnage. Even if it goes up by 5 cents. No. If it even go by 5 shillings, that 5 shillings is enough to supplement a family in other issues.
Okay.
You know, Sam, we were wondering who had come up with that propaganda. You know, there's some propaganda which was released last week, purported to have come from, I think, Kensalt or Kesalt or something. And we were wondering who had come up with that propaganda, because it was disowned by the company itself. Now we know the source. And guys, Okango, please, don't get drunk of your own wine. Yeah? Don't tell lies and believe them to be true. And that really, it would be a very unfortunate situation. Can you imagine the Azimio brigade is saying that putting sufurias on their heads is going to increase or is going to help them have food? And can you imagine, they're doing this when now it is raining. And we all know very well that for you to be able to get the food prices coming down, you have to produce. There is no miracle. There is no other way. You have to produce. Now it is raining. People of Nyeri, Mukurweini, are out tilling their land. Yeah? And the Azimio brigade have been told, don't till your land, go to the road. And you go to the road to demonstrate with empty sufurias. Yet, other Kenyans from different parts of this country are busy tilling their land. Okango, are you people not impoverishing your people? Are you not making them poorer? Are you not making them more desperate than what they should be? It's a very unfortunate situation. Sam, the way and how the government is working on the reduction of cost of living is by ensuring that we are applying a multi-pronged approach to this and ensuring that the plan is working. And Okango says very clearly that the food prices must come down. Yes, that must happen. And that Kenya Kwanza government must do that, must bring the cost of food down. Is Kenya Kwanza doing that? Yes, it is doing it.
Oh.
Now, what we know that you want us to do is to perform some miracles. And of course, when you say that we do the subsidies at this particular point in time, the government has clearly said we have a problem with the issue of cash flows. And this is not a Kenya Kwanza problem. We know very well this has much more to do with the borrowings that had been done. Now, look at what the government has done about lowering the cost of dollar in Kenya to ensure that we have a better, to ensure that we don't have very expensive imports that are coming to our country. Number one, the government has extended or has now a credit line with the government of Saudi and the government of Dubai to ensure that we bring fuel for, relieving the dollar. And that in the short term is helping us quite a bit. And the other thing that the government is also looking at in the long term is also looking at the issue of environment. Look at the kind of trees now we are planting to ensure that we are also mitigating the impact of global warming in Kenya. And the government is very serious. If you look at the kind of exercise we are now having in terms of tree planting, you understand that indeed there's something that is being done. Look at the issue of ICT. This is also another very important area where the government is working tirelessly to ensure that we bring money to people's pocket. The government is now rolling out a very serious and ambitious ICT platform, that is what we would call the backbone fiber and the last mile, which is 100,000 kilometers in Kenya. And this is going to happen within a very short time, so that every village has a hotspot or has a way of connecting to the fiber. And in fact, we have the arrangement of having every ward having a proper functioning Ajira center or hotspot, which young people can go and work. And then the government has not stopped there. We have seen the government making MOUs like recently with the government of Germany to have most of their government work done from Kenya. And this is going to be done in the villages where these ICT hubs are going to be working. I mean, and this is something that is going on. Imagine for all these years, we have only 13,000 kilometers of fiber in Kenya. Now, this is going to be improved by more than 100,000 kilometers of fiber across the country. And this is going to increase our capacity to earn. It's going to increase our level of employability for the young people. And I would wish the Azimio Brigade enlightens their young people that instead of taking sufurias, going to the road, going to maandamano, they can now take advantage of this. If you come to Mukurweini, you're going to find that the Ajira training is happening seriously in preparation for this coming.
When should you expect it here?
No, you see, the issue of rolling out the fiber is now ongoing. I mean, I think we are the process of sourcing for the people who are going to be there.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah. When? Which year? Which month?
The issue of
the hotspots will be hot.
No, you see, the hotspots are already. Some of them are already existing in most of the constituencies across the country. But what is happening is that it's going to be stretched now to all the areas. That's what I'm asking. When should you expect that to happen? No, it's an ongoing exercise. And I want to believe within this year, we're already going to have an achievement of quite a bit of this enrollment. And I want to believe within 10 to 12 months, I'm sure, so much will have been achieved. And so what is happening at this particular time, a lot of young people are being prepared to learn how to do these online jobs as well. Okay. As the government is also sourcing for those jobs, because in the past we have had the Ajira Center not functioning well because the young people are not having the jobs. And so what needs to be happening with these young people is don't take them to the road. Take them to the trainings so that they prepare, so that once this rolls out, then they're able to get some income.
Okay. And so I want us to listen to something that the Deputy President said in reference to what we just mentioned about oil and the deal between the government of Kenya and some foreign governments. Listen.
I want to say that things have not been very good, but as the English say, the darkest hour is just before dawn. There are serious signs that we are on a great path of economic recovery, and I want to assure the people of Kenya that things will be good. I want them to know that the President and his team are doing everything possible to bring back our economy to where it was.
Right, and Honorable Kagushia, can you resolve an economy by sort of speaking hope to it? Because yes, oil has come, and Kenyans will not have to pay in dollar immediately. They will have a credit period of about 6 months, but you still get to pay. What if the dollar, because it has been gaining strength against so many other currencies across the world, what if it doesn't respond as expected? Do you think we have a solid plan to fixing these challenges that we face?
You already see a government which is providing solutions. We have had this very serious pressure on the Kenya shillings, and some practical steps have already been taken. That the government went out of its own way. The president didn't negotiate with other countries to help us with easing that pressure on Kenya shillings. Now, that is the first step. Number two, in the long term, we must be looking at how we are going to reduce our imports and increase our exports. And that is going to happen through manufacturing within the country. And you already know that's part of the plan, is what the government is doing. Look at even just what I was talking about, the ICT hubs. If you're going to be having young people working for other governments across the board, they're going to be paid in dollar. The issue of production of our cash crops. We are looking at the issue of coffee. We already now have the coffee caucus, which is very active now, by the way, and we are looking at how we are going to increase the production of coffee in Kenya and ensure that we are increasing how much we are getting. And you know, these are very serious foreign earner. The same thing is going to be happening with tea. And so we are going to have much more exports than imports as we are moving on. On the other hand, again, remember, some of the countries now, and these are possibilities and a discussion that we must also start having, they are also now starting to trade with other currencies. And where that becomes a possibility, then you're going to find the pressure on the Kenya shillings also easing. You have seen some of the countries now kind of going much more towards using the yen, the Chinese currency, so that they can be able to use it for trading, and that is a possibility.
Yen is Japanese, Chinese is yuan.
Oh, yuan, sorry, yeah, yuan. So we have some of the countries that are already going that direction, and so we have to open our minds and think actively. The advantage we have is that we have a president who is not sleeping on the job. We have someone who is
Do you actually think there's a possibility that would change our emphasis on the dollar to...
I mean, there's a discussion that we must start having. It might look far-fetched, but it's something that we must start engaging on, and something that we must start thinking about very seriously. If the dollar...
How do you do that at a time that most of our imports, we import them having to pay the dollar? That is determined by the person selling to you.
Yeah, but you know, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So it's something that can actually happen. And as I'm saying, it's a discussion that we must start having now. It's not going to happen overnight, definitely, but it's something that we really can consider. But the biggest thing that we must do is to improve on our exports. We must export. We must manufacture in this country. We must produce. We must look at our cash crop. Before we had things like coffee bringing so much foreign earnings to this country, bringing so much dollars into this country. And definitely looking at what we have already done by now. I hope you are already aware that we were able to revoke the Munya regulations that were curtailing the ability of Kenyan organizations and cooperatives to trade on coffee in the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. Now you know it has already been opened, and any coffee union in Kenya that would want to trade now on NC is open and can be able to trade. And what that is going to do is that we are removing those bureaucracies, we are removing those cartels, and that is going to have an impact of increasing the earnings per kg for farmers. And that, in fact, is going to have farmers being able to produce more. And once we do that, we're going to have a better foreign earnings in Kenya. So there are practical steps that are being taken. But again, I say, a journey of 1,000 miles, that's with a step. Okay. We are on it, and progressively, we are gaining ground.
All right. Deputy Speaker, your thoughts about how hard it is to fix some of these challenges that are global in nature, and if you think the oil deal is going to really herald a stronger economy in Kenya?
When you say how hard is it, yes, it's hard, but it's not impossible. It is possible. And as you can see, several steps are being taken. And if you say the challenges are global, that's why you still go and have bilateral talks with other economies to be able to see where you can have a give and take situation to help each other, such as the one that the deal that has been brokered relating to oil. And I think, Sam, I hope Kenyans are listening to this. If you listen to Honorable Gagusha, he has given specific interventions that are ongoing, specific fiscal interventions and programs to bring down the cost of living and alleviate the poverty that is in the country. On the other hand, when you listen to Mr. Okango here, In fact, when I said when I grow up, I want to be him, because it is very good. He can move from TV station to TV station complaining about the cost of living without having any responsibility or obligation to be involved in actual steps. It is very easy to go on the street because you can afford a fuel guzzler because you have money. And you're complaining about people that people don't have money. How many cars are you using on the streets? Why don't you take that money to Kibra and help those people and buy them unga and so give the unga to their houses? When you buy those sufurias that you're putting on your heads, they cost money. They cost more than 180 shillings. Why don't you go and buy that unga and give it to somebody who is needy? Why don't you buy fertilizer? That subsidized fertilizer for someone who's needy with the money that you spend. How much money do you spend on those mandamanos to mobilize the youth? If you talk to members of parliament who are from from the Mandamano camp, they tell you we are tired because we are expected to mobilize people to come on the streets, and they use money to mobilize them to come on the street. You think in this time when people are hungry, instead of going for kibarua, they will go on the street? Of course, they've been given a day, money for the day to be able to appear on the streets. Anybody else, as Honorable Gashkusha says, would be on the shamba. And let me tell you, the people who need that cost of living to be brought down are not on the street. They are busy hustling every single day, figuring out how to live. I was in Soy constituency in Wasingishu, and I found an old man who was tilling his land on his knees. He had, his feet were full of jiggers. He couldn't stand up, but he was on his knees, tilling his land, growing his crop, knowing that with this subsidized fertilizer, I am growing my crop and my life is going to become better. And when we told him we want to treat your feet, he said, no, let me finish digging my shamba first. We had to persuade him that we'll get somebody to dig his shamba so that he can agree to take time off to take treatment. Those people are resilient. Those people want to survive. Those people believe that their lives are going to become better. They don't believe in those people who are on the street. So those people on the streets are lazy people who don't want to work. So don't come and tell us that that is the solution, is being able to go on the street. In fact, in all the things you've said, you want the unga to come down, you want salt to come down. Can you tell me, if you want the subsidy to come, can you tell me which budget line in the government budget you're going to get the subsidy from? Where are you going to move money? Which money are you going to move? Because the printed estimates are available to all Kenyans. So because he's so good at it that he can complain, I want you to tell us, I want the money that would have been put on this budget item, vote number this, to be moved to subsidy. And when it is moved to subsidy, the end result of it is that the unga will be perpetually cheap. When you give a subsidy for unga, you're just giving a short-term solution. It is a bandage you're putting. You're not healing the wound. And sometimes, in order to be able to get changes that are sustainable and long-term, yeah, and that are not reversible, it might have to be a little painful as we go along the way. And I can give an example. Yes, the cost of electricity has gone up. This has been a conversation that was held by all the stakeholders. They did public participation across the country, and they told Kenyans, this is the cost of transporting electricity. These are the lines that are already obsolete and need to be repaired. This is the cost of buying diesel, this is the cost of generating power, and therefore, the cost of power can only be this much. And they went around the country. Yes, Kenyans don't want to hear that the cost of electricity has gone up, but also Kenyans must be informed that what is the opposite effect of that? You could have a South Africa situation. South Africa was a country that had nuclear power. And what happened? After the apartheid broke, power was given for free and to everybody, and everybody could have power. That means it was subsidized. But eventually what happened? Because they were not making any money, they were not able to maintain or repair the nuclear power plant. Today, South Africans go 8 hours a day. They call it load shedding, without power. So the question we are asking, if we end up a situation where we have cheaper power, But we end up having load shedding, which means this station would not be open now. You'll be told you're open only 3 days a week because you can't be assured of power. So it's better to have power. That's slightly expensive, but have power.
Okay.
Because the economy is going to collapse if you don't have any power. When you look at the issue of fuel...
Let me cut it short so that we take a short break. We'll continue from that point.
Okay.
And so much more, including what Honorable Kagushia is saying about growing the exports versus the imports. Do stay tuned. Still.